Today, very fortunate to have Mime Troupe veteran, ex-collective member, director, writer, actor, singer, and all-around interesting person, Wilma Bonet. So, Wilma, thank you for being part of the MimeCast.
Thank you for inviting me.
So now you had a career before the troupe, and then with the troupe, and then since the troupe, and then worked with us again. But I want to kind of get back to the beginning. So tell me, where were you born?
Well, I was born in New York City.
Really?
Yes, I was born in New York City, Manhattan, a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, not that long ago.
My parents are Puerto Ricans.
Mm-hmm.
So first generation New York, and my parents came during the migration that was taking place during 49 and 50, and they ended up in New York. My mom was a seamstress in the garment district, and my dad was literally a farm worker, and he did
really in New York.
New York State, apples.
Oh, New York State. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I was born in New York City. In New York City, so my dad at one time had a bodega. He did a food truck when food trucks were coming in. He was caterer. He did all kinds of stuff. He worked in, he just tried to make a living, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I grew up in New York.
You were saying there was a migration in the late 40s. I'd never heard from Puerto Rico. I'd never heard about that.
Yeah. They needed labor. So I think around that time they also did. They had the migration with the Mexicans coming in, and a lot of Puerto Ricans were actually recruited to go to even Hawaii to pick, do sugarcane in Hawaii. And they needed labor in New York, and that's where my mom ended up and where my dad ended up. Yeah.
So, and they moved together? Or did they meet in New York?
They met in Puerto Rico. And yeah, the story's interesting. I don't know if I should get into it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
What's the interesting story?
My brother's mother died. And my mom and my dad were girlfriend, boyfriend, and he was supposed to marry her, and she waited at the church for him, and he never showed up. No. She was jilted.
Goodness.
Yeah. And so she had a heartbreak. She was so heartbroken and stuff like that. It took a couple of years before he actually contacted her and said, come to New York. So she came to New York. And
so why didn't he show up? Was he just like he didn't feel like he could do it at that point? Or?
No idea. According to him, he had a lot of other girlfriends.
So there were a lot of churches he wasn't going to that day.
Yeah. I'll marry you. I'll meet you in Ponce. I'll meet you in San Juan. I'll meet you wherever. But yeah, and my mom was young, so she was definitely heartbroken when that happened. She had nobody, except sisters and her dad.
But eventually he contacted her and invited her to meet up with him in New York.
Yes.
Wow.
And she did.
He remembered he loved her. He just probably felt like he couldn't support her yet. That's the story I'm gonna
go. Okay.
So anyway, so you're born in New York. How long did you stay in New York?
I was in New York till 71, and then I moved to the Bay Area at that time. I had been married, and my ex-husband actually got an intern job with Channel 7 News as a cameraman. So so I left New York to move over here, and we came to Berkeley the first time. It was during that whole free speech movement that was taking place at UC Berkeley, and so we were there. We were all there, when we were in New York, we did a lot of. We were. I actually was a sound person for a film with him because he was one of the cameramen, and it was
Oh.
the first time that the Young Lords opened the big Puerto Rican flag.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you should probably tell some people because everybody may not know who the Young Lords were.
The Young
So
Lords, you
I
that
know, but
gang, and then they
everybody else.
became political. Yeah, they were a big political organization, like the Black Panthers. In fact, they had a lot of close affiliation with the Black Panthers,
Yeah.
and they did, breakfast programs in New York, and basically, what ended up happening was this gang turned into a political organization,
Mm-hmm.
and they started learning about their history and about Puerto Rico and things that are not in books. Period. So
Yeah.
for me, it was kind of shocking because my only thing about Puerto Ricans that I was proud of was West Side Story,
Mm.
and even that's not. If you look at the story, it's not
Yeah.
really that
Really.
great because they put Puerto Ricans in the light of gangs. So,
Yeah.
um, and that was not my reality at all. I
Mm-hmm.
know it existed, but that was not my reality. And and so finding out about Puerto Rican history and how there were these political prisoners, Lolita Lebron, and these three prisoners that went into the Congress and shot it up in 1954, I believe.
Yeah.
And they were in prison for a long time. And during the 70s, my ex-husband and I, he started talking about Lolita Lebron, and and I made a poster about Lolita Lebron with the letter that they found in her purse,
Mm.
and I was telling people who they were. I even named my daughter Lolita Lebron, Lolita after Lolita Lebron, and not knowing that Lolita is actually a nickname for Dolores.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did not know that. Huh. Hmm.
I didn't know it
So
either.
yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
I want to get back to like so when you were a kid and you were growing up and you're going to school, were you interested in theater or what were you thinking you were going to do? I mean, your dad's got a bodega and your mother's a seamstress. What were you thinking was going to be your path in life there in New York?
I wasn't very clear about it because I didn't have such a great what do you call it, um trust in myself in terms of
Oh.
as somebody who has anything to say or for anybody to listen to. I mean, they found
Mm-hmm.
out I was smart, so I got put into a very smart class,
Mm-hmm.
you know, SP class or whatever it was, for
Yeah.
progress students. And I remember that I was the only Latina in that class.
Really?
And
Mm.
there was another woman, another girl in that class. Uh, I remember her name, Nancy Macropolis, who
Wow.
was Greek. We kind of became friends because we both were poor. We
Mm.
were poor, come from poor households, and we couldn't relate to everybody. Everybody was
Mhm.
from a rich family.
Oh, yeah.
And um, so whenever they said, your highest grade was supposed, in the grade that you're supposed to have in order to stay in the class was 80%.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, that's what was the grading.
Yeah.
And and whenever they would mention that, somebody has a low mark, like 70, we would look at each other and wonder which one of us it was. We had absolutely no self-esteem in terms
Right.
of that. But I remember that I was so into art history and Egyptian history,
Oh,
world
wow.
history in general, and Greek. And
Mm-hmm.
so like every Saturday morning I would listen to the radio to all the Greek stories, like Narcissus
Oh, wow.
and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was me. And my mom would always find books under me when I would go to sleep. On my
You just
book.
kind of go to sleep on it.
Yeah, I would sleep in books underneath my ribs. And
Hmm.
she was concerned, but she never said anything. She didn't know anything about, the the history of the world and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The very
But
small
she
world.
wasn't threatened by you learning it. She was just like,
No, she wasn't threatened by me, but there were things that I wanted to do, like hang out with some other people and stuff, and she would go, okay, pero who's gonna be there and ta 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 ta, And I remember going to one of the girls'
mm-hmm.
apartment on like the Second Street and West End, and their apartment was a complete floor,
Wow.
a complete floor, and I was like, there was a living room we weren't supposed to enter, and all this stuff.
Oh, like did it have plastic on
That
the?
was kind of,
When I was a kid, I remember that we had some friends who
we
they had
had
plastic
plastic
on the rug, not just on the sofa, on the rug,
on the
and we
road.
couldn't enter the room. I was like,
Not me. We
yeah.
got plastic when we moved to the Bronx. when we, my mom had finally a beautiful sofa, kind of rococo or whatever it was. I didn't like it, but you know, and she put plastic on it, which was the hardest thing to sit on because your ass
Yeah.
always got stuck to it. So
Well, always harder for girls. Boys, at least we get pants, you know. But girls in
yeah,
those skirts, I remember we would visit my friends, like I said, and my sisters would just sit on it. And for my grandparents that had the plastic on the sofa, it was
uh-huh.
always in the sun, and it would just get
Oh
so
my God,
hot.
that's the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah,
Yeah, I always felt like I was peeling my thighs off the damn sofa. No,
yeah.
it hurt. It hurt. Yeah, so basically I went to elementary school and junior high school in Manhattan on 80th Street. And so
Mm-hmm.
my playground was Central Park and the
Mm.
Natural Museum and the Metropolitan Museum. I knew
Wow.
everything in that museum.
Mm-hmm.
People would come as tourists and they would say, "Hey, do you know where the exhibit of man is?" And I say, "Yeah, go to the third floor." Da, 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 da. You know, we knew, my brothers and my
Yeah.
sisters. So yeah,
Mm.
so that was my
That love
education.
it's like interesting. You were talking about history because I was a history major. I didn't study. I wasn't a theater
Oh,
major. I
sure.
was a history major. And my specialty when I was growing up was Greek history, Greek and
Mm,
Egyptian history, and
yeah,
that's my parents kind
that's
of, flooded the house with these because just that those history, the stories and the philosophy and all of that stuff, and like this is this key thing, and so
yeah,
that's really very much what I grew up around.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I was surrounded by it. I really, really was fascinated by history, and I had a great teacher in fifth grade, Mrs. Rocker, who had little glasses like this. Very, very, very hard on us. Every morning we read the New York Times. You had
Hmm.
to the Times, and you had to stand up and read an article. And
Wow,
yeah,
that's cool. I
and
mean,
then
it's frightening.
it is frightening. It was frightening. And then she would
Yeah.
take us every time we reached a certain point in history, like for the Revolutionary War, we went to the Metropolitan Museum and check out the rooms that they had that time period. And then for the
Hmm.
Civil War, we went to the New York Historical Society, which is a fabulous museum in New York.
Yeah.
And they had every piece of costume, cannons, everything. And so, you get to see a little piece of history, and you know that it existed because there it is. The
Yeah.
and
Right.
everything. So it kind of puts everything in perspective, gives it a 3D effect of history,
Hmm.
which I now know that I was very privileged to have that woman as a great history teacher. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And so for high school, by high school, we moved to the Bronx, and I tried out for three. Oh, yeah. While I was in junior high is when I first got the acting bug.
Oh yeah. So what happened?
It was very interesting. I liked the boy. It was, and mind you, it was it was Miles Davis' son who had these
Oh
big
wow.
green eyes, and he played the bass in the jazz group.
Mm-hmm.
But I was too shy. I could not get myself to even say hello or
Mm.
whatever. I was just too damn shy. And I had these two friends who actually said, "Well, Wilma, you're too damn shy. You have to join the drama club." I said,
Really?
I says, "Yeah, because you got to get out of that." So I joined the drama club, and that's where I learned Commedia dell'arte.
Really? So they were teaching that in middle school, or at least exposing you to it?
They were teaching us that, and it was this teacher who was also an English teacher during the day, and she was black and
Hmm.
spoke impeccable English. I wanted to talk like her.
Hmm.
I believe she did a lot of tutoring to people on Broadway and shit.
Mm. Oh, that's nice.
So I was in a play that she directed and stuff like that. And in my first play, oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. Everybody in the audience, which was the other students, were like talking and laughing and everything during the whole performance. And she came on stage and she was like, "They are performing for you. You must be quiet and give them their attention." And I was like, whoa. And everybody got quiet and we finished the show. And I was like, whoa, she sure demand commands
Yeah.
the stage. And of course, I had no idea why or anything like that. But I continued going to the drama club, and I never spoke to that boy again.
Never talked to the boy.
Never got. I still was too shy, and so she had asked me what did I want to do, and I really liked the acting bug. So she says, okay, then you should audition for Performing Arts High School. And I said, okay. So I
Oh, wow.
auditioned for Performing Arts High School, but I also was an artist. And so I had a portfolio. I came up with a portfolio for art and design. And the performing arts, I went in with a monologue, and which I didn't even know what the hell a monologue was for, and I was so
Hmm.
scared. So I know I didn't do a good job. But I remember one thing they did tell me is you had a heavy Puerto Rican accent, and you will never be a good actress. That's what they
You'd
told me.
never be a good actress?
Yes,
Oh,
they told me that in the audition. I was
wow.
like, yes, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm bad, bad, bad. So my teacher, being who she is, she asked me, well, how did it go? And I told her what they said, and she went, hmm. So one day she pulls me out of my class and she tells the teacher, Wilma is coming with us to see Shakespeare.
Wow.
And I said, oh. And they said, sure. And they let me go. I went with her class, her English. She was definitely English teacher. And
Hmm.
she took us to see Midsummer's Night Dream at what is now called the, I guess it's the public theater now, or Joe
Oh,
Pat.
yeah.
And it was wonderful to see these actors in costume and stuff, and they're talking so fancy. And then out comes Puck, and Puck starts doing his first speech on a heavy Puerto Rican accent. And I said, that was a heavy accent. I looked in the program and I see Jaime Sanchez. I said, oh my God, he's Puerto Rican. He's Puerto Rican. And very smart teacher to show me that
Yeah.
even with an accent, you can perform and do good theater. He was good. He went on
Mm-hmm.
movies and stuff.
I mean,
So
that's that same period, I guess, around there when Raul Julia was also at the public, and he had an accent.
yeah, that was years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw his shrew. Oh my God. I was blown away by his shrew.
Mm-hmm.
Taming of the Shrew. Oh my God. He was fantastic as Petruchio. He was just fantastic. And Meryl Streep was his shrew.
Right. Yeah.
And that was really good. Anyway, yeah. So
So you
I
get
got to
through,
high school.
right? So high school, yeah.
Yeah, I made it to art and design high school, which my art history teacher was phenomenal. She was great. She taught.
Mm-hmm.
She had been around the world, all over the world, and so she had her own slides besides the curriculum that they had, that they
Uh-huh.
were shown to us. And I learned about, um, the architecture and the different periods, time periods for every art, Etruscan all the way to what? Modern art. Yeah.
Yeah.
Took at least
Wow.
a year, you know.
You had some great teachers.
I did have great teachers, and I found out that she was the one who started the Chiclet's uh, ad campaigns.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. She was fascinating, but she was like from the South, so she had
Mm-hmm.
this fantastic drawl, and she always talked to us like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I love listening to her every day because of the way she talked and also how she put a story to every slide. You know, there was a
Mm-hmm.
story. And so while I was in high school, there was actually a set design program, which I did not do. I went
Mm-hmm.
into fashion illustration.
Right.
I took the first year we took everything, but
Yeah.
they needed plays, so so they can build sets and stuff. And so I
Mm-hmm.
auditioned for the play the first year as a freshman, and I didn't know if I was going to get it or not, but even the teacher said, uh, those of you who are here for the first time, don't expect to be in the play at all. So I auditioned for this play, impromptu, and I did it. And then she says, you stay. And so I said, okay. And then she had me and a senior sitting next to each other. And she told the senior, I know you're supposed to do this part. And you look the part to the senior. And he said, but Wilma acts the part.
Now
And
that's kind of messed up to say, but still.
oh, I know. But I was like, oh shit. And then she made a deal with both of us. We would both get a performance.
Oh, cool.
So we
Okay.
both performed on different
Mm-hmm.
days.
Well,
And
that's good. I'm sure the other actor, knowing that and hearing that, would also kind of have watched your performance to see what was it that you were doing that made it that you were being the part in a way that they weren't.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So I heard laughing and applause, and I really, really dug it. Especially there was a thing that I did that I wasn't aware of. I
uh,
had no idea what it was. I now know it's timing.
oh, that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, which I happened to do pretty good. And because all of a sudden, when I did it, the audience started applauding and it was crazy, and I said, oh, so I got hooked. And for the next 3 years, I was in every single play.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did a lot of plays there. And then I ended up going to FIT
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of years. And
So
I
you were still thinking in terms of being a designer. Costumes.
illustrator, fashion illustrator, which there's
Yeah.
money in that, absolute
Yeah.
money, But I got good at doing figure drawings and illustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, but I still acted in in um, in FIT. They had a drama club, so I did musicals there.
Oh, really? I didn't know FAT had. Well, I guess for the designers, they would want to have something that they could control like that.
Well, yeah, or whatever, but
Yeah.
it was an extra curriculum thing, and so
Hmm.
I did that. I remember I did the boyfriend, but I never got to do West Side Story because I left the year. They did it the year after I left, which was a
Oh,
bummer. But
oh.
yeah. So yeah. So we did
Hmm.
a few things like that, and I worked in the ornament shoe ornament industry for a while.
Oh, really? What does that exactly mean? Like
I
making things that are on shoes?
I could not make the shoes. I
Uh-huh.
actually would draw the shoes that they bought from Europe, and they those shoes will come here in a big, huge suitcase, and each of them had ornaments, and I would draw the shoe
Hmm.
and put it in the catalog, and that would be made available to all the companies that make shoes in the United States.
Huh.
And
Okay.
so, because people need eyelets, people need little things for the loafers on the top or whatever,
Right.
and they would do a casting of those ornaments for shoes.
Huh.
And yeah, it was kind of interesting, but it was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Right, because it's not as creative. You're kind of copying somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, it was basically, draw the shoe, draw the ornament as detailed as possible, measure it, and then put it in the book. And
Hmm.
then people come, they visit, they look at the book, they say, "Oh, let me see the shoe." Oh, okay. I think I'll take like three or four or 5 dozen of those ornaments, whatever they
Hmm.
bought. But yeah, that was one of my jobs. And then I came here
So how did you meet your first husband?
in a nightclub.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
In a nightclub,
In a nightclub? Well, that's a place to meet people.
in a blonde wig. It was a social experiment. I'm so sick and tired of these blondes, getting attention. And I say, I want to see if blondes do have more fun. So I had a wig, blonde wig, and I put my hair up and I put on the wig and I look cute. I look cute in it, totally different. So me and my girlfriends, we went out to party on 86th Street, and um, it was really, really interesting how people were drawn to the blonde.
Really?
Yeah.
It's so weird because like I watch a lot of old movies, a
Mm,
lot of old movies, and there's this point where it used to be that if somebody was blonde in a movie, it was like Jean Harlow or something,
yeah.
that they were the villain, and the good girl was normally the
Or the
brunette.
bad girl. Yeah.
Yeah, the bad girl was blonde, and the good girl was a brunette. And then somewhere in the '60s, it was suddenly blondes have more fun, and the blondes became the heroes, and the brunettes became the bad girls.
Yeah.
It's just this weird, like, I don't know if it's just marketing, it's just to sell hair dye, or if it was because it
Or they
went
have to
like,
be saved like Fay Ray and King Kong,
yeah,
which is
or if
ridiculous.
it was just because California and the bleached blonde
That
or sun
became a
bleached
thing.
hair thing
Yeah.
came in or whatever. But there's that switch. Yeah, and so you were a blonde for that night,
For that night.
and how are you? How different was it?
How different?
Yeah.
I had some German dude follow me, and I was like, I'm scared. you know? He can say, "You're so cute. I want to put you on a mantle." I said, no, no. And so I went to a salsa club, and he followed me into salsa club, and he happened to know how to salsa.
Wow.
Heard of. But then um, my ex-husband saw me, and he started dancing with me, and then he he said, "You're cute. You're cute." And then all of a sudden he says, "I want to photograph you." And I said,
Oh, he
"What?"
was a photographer. Oh, that's right. He was a cameraman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And I said, "Okay." And he says, "I'm gonna, we'll go to Central Park." Okay. I said, "Oh, sure." So he photographed me in a rowboat, looking at plants, looking at this, whatever. And then he
Did you
said,
still have the wig on all that time?
yes, because I hadn't told him yet. So
Oh.
while we were in the boat, he goes, "I've never seen a blonde Puerto Rican him before. And I said, that's because I'm not.
Yeah, you still haven't.
You still haven't. This is
Yeah.
not me. And he goes, what? And so I went like this. I moved my
Mhm.
scalp and the wig
Yeah.
moved like that. And he goes, whoa! He got freaked out because it moved. And I said, you think, oh, I see. You think I'm a real blonde. No, I'm not. He said, well, what hair color are you? And he's trying to sneak a peek. And I said,
Mm.
no, 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 you can't do that. If you want to see my true hair color, then you have to ask me for a proper date.
Mm.
And so he did. And I came out as a brunette. And we kept going, kept going.
Mm.
And he, like a year later, he asked me to marry him. And
Wow.
eventually I came out here. So, yeah, yeah,
So you guys moved out here because he got a job as a cameraman for,
yeah. And
what'd you
then
say, was it KPIX or KRON?
uh, KGO. Oh,
KGO.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you came out, what were you thinking you were going to do if he's going to be doing that?
I was hoping to see if somebody would hire me as a fashion illustrator, which I did get hired, but it's so sad because this Japanese designer in Berkeley who was doing all these beautiful um, work, I went and I took my portfolio, this huge ass portfolio, and she looked at the drawings and then she goes, I love your style. I want you to illustrate my fashion. And I said, oh, great, great, cool. And then she goes, well, how much for each drawing? And I said, $125 each drawing. And she goes, I can't afford it. I can't do that. And I said, well, how much can you afford? She said, $5 a drawing.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's, you want a color drawing of your fashion. You see what I do. I really can't do that. So please, please, please. She begged, begged, begged. And I said, okay, I'll do it for you, but only for the next time you got to pay me more. You're going to see how long it takes me. I work like 5 hours each drawing. So I made a
Mm.
dollar an hour, basically.
Right.
And I never heard from her again. The drawings went to Japan. So I don't know what happened.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
So that kind of showed you a little of the economy.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, of a fashion illustrator. And then photography was like becoming more and more the thing, the medium that the fashion magazines were using during that time. It was both illustration
mhm.
and um, and photography, but then photography just took over. It's so much cheaper
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
because you get a whole plate of things and then you go, I'll take that one, that one, that one, and that's it.
Mm.
And yeah, so I started giving it up, and so I started pursuing. Um, I met up with some people from Contra Costa College. This professor who was living in Berkeley, of all places, Kensington. The
Mm.
big high price place,
Yeah.
but the whole building was housing artists
Oh,
at the
really?
time. Yeah.
Huh.
So she was putting together a group called Los 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 Moles. Los Moles? Was it? Oh shoot. I don't know. But anyway, I want to see Sopilado, but that was the Mexican group. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was, yeah, like moles, the moles. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
so we would do hit and run theater basically. It was during the Vietnam War, and we would basically create sketches and go out in the streets, go to Embarcadero, go to anywhere, and we would do clown acts, pantomime, and then
Mhm.
start the sketch.
Huh.
Every sketch was always a anti-war, and it was be spoken.
Hmm.
So that first summer, I came to the Bay Area. I saw the San Francisco Mime Troupe at Live Oak Park.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, political theater? Oh my God, I want to do this, you know? And I was so taken aback. It was Dragon Lady's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Oh yeah.
I was so like, oh my God, this is so right on, you know? And I want to do this. I want to do this. And it wasn't until 9 years later that I finally joined the company, or I was asked to audition. Yeah.
So were
So
you were working with other theaters in the meantime?
not really. I did a few plays. I did a few
Mm-hmm.
plays, but I had a baby, and so
All right.
it was kind of difficult. But I did work with Carlos Baron and Teatro Latino in the Mission, and we did a
Mm-hmm.
few things. We did a play about Lolita Lebron that we toured in Mexico,
Oh wow.
and she was actually freed. All the prisoners were freed, and we got to meet some of them in Mexico City at the time we were
Wow.
there. But we were like all over the place in Mexico, and it was a big play. The first time we did this play, we didn't even know how long it was. It was 4 hours.
Oh God.
Hours, and people stayed.
Wow.
People stayed. We had an orchestra. We had a big salsa band. We had music, dance, everything, you know, and the whole story of Lolita Lebron and how she came
Mm-hmm.
about. And it was interesting because all the women were Lolita Lebron in some form or phase in this play. But the
Yeah.
play was too damn long. Yeah. But eventually got cut down and we took it to Mexico and toured all over the place. You know, people would come and see it. It had Spanish in it, it had English in it, and it was very well received.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and
How long did it end up being? If it started at like 4 hours, when you cut it down, how long was it?
you know, I don't remember. It was still
But it
long.
was short. That's the key.
It was shorter.
Not short, but shorter.
Yeah, because you know, I was working with Carlos Baron, who ended up
Hmm.
being at San Francisco State, and
Yeah,
everything was precious
mentioned this
to
place.
him. You know,
Oh,
you writers always everything is precious, but
yeah.
you of all people, you actually know how to edit and cut things. It's good. I came across a
Can't be
few.
too long in the parks.
Oh my God. So Carlos was precious with the material, and I just said, well, you don't want the audience to leave, right? And they need to go to the
Mm.
bathroom.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
It's
So
tough because you're like, as a writer, you're trying to create this whole world. I mean, you know this as a writer also. You know,
yeah,
you want to create this whole world, and it can't end up like every thought, every word, everything that you're saying is like another rock or a tree or a mountain. And it's like, you know what?
yeah,
Maybe the whole planet's too big. You need to tell the story of a smaller planet and just get rid of some of those chunks.
yes,
You know, save that for the next play.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I
So you
did a
got to tour through Mexico doing the show.
yes.
That must that you know, and at that particular time, what was that like?
That was wonderful. Yeah, that was great. I mean, I remember arriving in Puerto Vallarta, which
Mm-hmm.
beautiful town, beautiful town. I fell in love with Puerto Vallarta, and I think it was that Thanksgiving time because there were some expats having turkey, but we arrived and nobody knew we were coming. But one of the guys, I think it was Mike Rios, who is also a famous muralist, he says, I have an uncle who's in the in the political party.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to his uncle's. They went on the radio the following morning. And then the following day after that, 2,000 people show up at the plaza where the play was going to take place. And our background was the Pacific Ocean.
Ooh.
It had these
Mm.
arches, like Greek arches. And
Mm-hmm.
through the arches, you see the Pacific Ocean. So we performed in front of that. we didn't need a set, you know. That was just gorgeous, you know.
Mm.
But before that, I did go to Mexico before that for the first encounter of Latin American theater and Chicano theaters in 1970.
Mhm.
I want to say 74, and we went to
Mhm.
Mexico City, and they put us up all over the city. There were 500 Chicano theaters at that time in the country,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Yeah.
state,
Those are the days.
performing for free. Uh,
Mhm.
and Dorinda Moreno had called me and said, I want you to direct. Uh,
Really? Wow.
yeah, I have this group of women, and we want you to direct. And I said, okay. So I would show up, and I had a friend who played guitar, and we sang some songs, some political songs, and there were people who wrote poetry, who wrote sketches, who danced, so all this. It was a hodgepodge, and
Mm.
and Dorinda Moreno was a poet, so we did things to her poetry. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says, "Come to Mexico. Come to Mexico with us." And I said, "What? I have a baby." He said, "No, no problem. Bring the baby along. You know, just bring the baby along. We're all bringing our children." So,
Mhm.
so a women's political theater company heading to Mexico City with babies and children.
Mm.
And when they saw us there, they put us up in a monastery. Everybody else slept on the floor
Huh.
somewhere. And we thought, oh shoot, you know, and it only cost $50 to get
Huh.
across the border to go to Mexico City on a train.
Mm.
On a
No.
Yeah. So I learned so much. I
Yeah.
told I saw all these theater companies from Latin America. They were wonderful, you know,
Mhm.
and the political theater from Bogota, Enrique Buenaventura, he was like tremendous. And because I was a director, th-
Mhm.
there was this directors meeting. I was the only
Mm.
woman there, the
Mhm.
only woman there. And I said, Wilma, you don't know shit. You don't
Mhm.
even know anything about directing. You know, you just stay quiet. And I would bring my baby, and I'm there with the baby, and I'm listening to all these directors talking. Augusto Boal, who started the People's
Yeah.
Argentina, and all these, and 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 Enrique Buenaventura, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know who they were. I started learning while I was there, and then
Mhm.
I started telling people who I met. They all said, "What?" And then and plus directors from the U.S. theaters, um,
Mhm.
and I just sat there quietly, just listening to them talking about politics, and we were discussing the theater company that had performed the night before. Every morning there was a discussion of the performance that we had seen the night before.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah.
So
And
would that theater company be there and kind of talk about their show and their
um,
process and stuff?
no, no, they
Hmm.
should have been there. The theater company that we were discussing that time was Teatro Campesino.
Oh, really?
And they had just done the Calpa de los Rescuache, and the
Mhm.
ending was very controversial. Very
Mhm.
controversial because they had this guy, the hero, the yeah, the hero or whatever, who was a Vietnam soldier who turned into Christ, who turned into Che, who turned back into Christ, all at the end.
Mhm.
So for them, they started discussing what did that mean, and what are you trying to tell people that Che is Christ?
Huh.
No, you can't send that kind of message. You
Mm.
know, they were hardcore. They were,
Now was Valdez there during the discussion, or had they already taken off?
ah, I don't remember them being there.
Hmm.
But that discussion was taken down by this. I want to say, oh my God, I forget his name? But he started out with another theater company, Esperanza,
Oh
and
yeah.
and became a doctor of theater and taught in at UCLA, I believe. Um, but he took all those notes,
Hmm.
which Mr. Valdez was not happy with. But
Yeah.
that's it. They they believe in God. But the people at the table, they did not believe in God. They believed
Right.
in the revolution,
Right.
and they
Don't
felt
have to bring Jesus into it. Now
exactly.
I have a question. So you were saying that so you got to the West Coast and you're living over there and you've got a baby and you're not doing and then you said you did some shows before you were with the Mime Troupe and you were kind of like not that many, but the ones you did were so amazing and you're off and you're touring Mexico and how did you manage to work with all of these influential people and in these amazing projects? Were you hanging out with the right group? Did you just kind of pick which things you wanted to audition for, or just you're running into people through politics, or how did that happen?
Well, I know I'm downplaying what I did during the 70s, but many times I was asked to perform at rally and
Oh,
at
really?
which was all in the 70s. And so what they did was basically come up with something. We were the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like the Puerto Rican obituary, the poem, and I got a bunch of women together and we did the poem, which was like just speaks to the working class and how we're not seen and forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And beautiful lines like they worked, and they died, which is in the poem. So I turned it into a theatrical production.
Oh,
15 minutes, you know. It was long. It was a long ass poem, but we did it. And then one time they said, yeah, can you write a sketch about housing?
huh.
And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I said, we're not getting paid for any of this. And we were putting our time, a lot of, because I was writing sketches and I didn't consider myself a writer or anything like that. I was just talking from what I had, stories. I would
Mm-hmm.
just make, and eventually I said, you know, you guys should give us some gas money at least.
At least, yeah.
At least. And eventually, all the artists got together and we created an organization um, that was basically uh, artists asking for, if you want us to be there, then you have to pay for us. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up to us how much we wanted to get paid, but we didn't even think about getting paid for theater or art, to do art in for free. It was something that we thought was demanded of us, that
Mm-hmm.
it was something that we needed to give to people. So I had my own theater company called Teatro Claridad that I created. Basically, Teatro Claridad uh, dealt with women's rights and children and the rights of children, and so teaching them. I felt it was very important that we taught the children what's right and what's wrong. So I had this, and somebody said, "Oh, can you come to the school and do a play for the kids?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And we started getting invited here and there. And I had, these two clowns, Cuchi and Frita, who would do talk about the sterilization in Puerto Rico in a very funny sketch. But we would, bring out political themes like that. So a lot of the mime troopers, the old troopers, they saw me performing during those times.
Oh, you were doing the plays about doing the school shows.
Yeah.
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 And
We
and
would
the Mime Troupe members had
the
started to see
monster
this.
of the North. We considered the U.S. the monster.
Mm-hmm.
I had a series of plays about like that. But we were putting, for kids to understand, what the monster was taking away from people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we ended up, people were saying, well, yeah, we can pay. How's $300? I said, yeah.
Yeah, right. In those days, that was actually money. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of money
Yeah,
actually
in those
back
days,
then.
that's like a mortgage payment or
True.
rent easily.
Rent easily,
So,
yeah.
so then you said that some Mime Troupe people had started to hear about you and see some of the shows.
Yeah.
And so, how did you find out about that? Did they start talking to you and saying, "Hey, you should come over. We got something for you."
Well, they always talked to me when they would see the shows. They were always interested in what I was and asked me to audition for squash.
Oh, mhm.
Um, yeah. To take Maria Acosta's part because she couldn't tour. So I said, "Oh, okay." So I did.
Yeah, that's us.
And
It's
then
like you. So you came in as a replacement actor.
yes,
Yeah, that's why I
exactly.
came in as a replacement
So,
actor. Lena came in as a replacement actor. So many people. It's like
yeah.
somebody does the summer show and then they can't do it, and then it gives us a chance.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
chance to perform,
Yeah.
and I was so excited and intimidated totally by the whole history of the mime troupe. So it was good. It was a good experience, um and then after I remember it was a fall show, and we were going up to the Northwest,
Hmm.
and we hit all these different towns, Bellingham, Eugene, Oregon, all these towns up in the north, which is so different. It's kind of sad that the Mime Troupe doesn't do that anymore because
Yeah. They can't
people,
afford it.
yeah,
Uh,
but now it's not the same. And at that time, I was getting paid $100 a week to work with the Mime Troupe.
mm.
So
Were you
I
still
left.
doing your other companies?
Um, yeah, I was doing also puppet shows. No, actually, once she joined the Mime Troupe, that's it. You
Hmm.
can't do anything. They want you 24/7 almost. So but I had come from a $800 job, $800 a month job, to this,
Hmm.
to 400. But I just decided, you know, that I wanted to do theater full time.
Hmm.
And I thought her, and she just said, and at the time I got called for Teatro Esperanza to audition for Teatro Esperanza and also for the Mime Troupe, and I had to make a decision. And my daughter said, "Go with the Mime Troupe. They're funnier."
Yeah. Phew. Good thing.
Really, she
So who?
loved them. Yeah.
So you when you're doing squash, who else was in that show? That's like one my true show I never when I was as a kid. So what who was in that?
Dan Ford. So I'm talking Dan Chumley,
Hmm.
and of course Sharon Lockwood. Who else was in it? Patricia Silver.
Mm.
Who else? Um, I think Arthur Holden was in it as well. He might have been
I
in
think
that.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
And then the Maria, and you took her part.
yeah.
Oh. So
There
now,
was
how long was it?
also Oropesa.
Oh,
Yeah,
uh-huh. Cool.
yeah. He
So
was. Yeah.
so how long was it between doing that first show and kind of ending up becoming a collective member and a permanent member of the company?
About 6 months.
Oh.
Yeah. I came in after we did that tour. They they said, okay, we need to have a meeting. And they said, we're going to go to Europe with squash. And I said, oh. And I said, I was looking forward to it. And I said, well, I need to bring my daughter with me then, because that's too long. I mean, they were talking a month. And then I explained to them that my daughter was ill. She had cystic fibrosis and she needed care. And I would have to give her physical therapy. And I would have to bring a special machine that I usually brought in. And probably find out where I can take her in case she gets sick. And Joan just, what? What? You didn't tell us that you had a sick daughter. And I was like, what? And she says, Evelina Fernandez auditioned for us, and she wanted to bring her baby on the tour, and we said no because we didn't want her to bring her baby on the tour. And now you're gonna bring a sick daughter on the tour? No way. And I said, what? And I got really so bad that I literally told them off. I said, so this is the San Francisco Mime Troupe, the politically correct San Francisco Mime Troupe.
Mm-hmm.
It is against single mothers and sick children with disability. It said, I'm ashamed to even know any of you. And I walked out. And then a month later, Barry lets me up and says, Wilma, we want you to be part of the San Francisco Mime Troupe. You told us off like that. You're going to be part of the Mime Troupe. So, but you have to tell them off in order to get into the troupe. So that's what happened. I was like totally, I was shocked. Because that was things that they were pushing for, the rights of mothers, the rights of disabled people, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, here they were faced with, and they, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's so many times where you hear about, these revolutionary groups and stuff, and then they're like out there and marching and doing all this stuff and making their own yogurt and wrapping their babies in rags and all of this stuff. And then you find out, actually, it's the women doing a bunch of that stuff. While the men are out there doing, running around pretending to be all into equality, but they're relying on the women, They're relying on the women to stay home, and it ends up being very traditional. So,
true.
Yeah,
it did.
And that calling people on that saying this is fucked up is important.
Yes. During that time, we literally, we were calling people on all these issues a long way off. And I know that, there was this, they were all political and men love to proselytize, but you know what? That's the way it is. I was actually in the Puerto Rican Socialist Party during the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go and sell newspapers from Puerto Rico, the Socialist newspaper. And I got pushed out to the front to speak. So I spoke at a lot of rallies, a lot of political rallies, and a lot of people from the left complained about me.
Really?
They said that I was a very simple talker. I didn't use terminology. And so I was going, oh shit. But I didn't have to go far with it because the president of the Puerto Rican Socialist Party just looked at him and he says, that's because you talk over people's head and Wilma speaks to the worker and the people in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You speak over people's head. And we stand behind her because she speaks to the people. And it's true. Everybody was like, these people from the universities, and they're very into,
Condescending to the folk.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's all the manifestos and everything else. Anyway, but eventually I left that. I did appear in the Black Panther paper once.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
I
What
did.
was that like?
I,
What happened?
I with my afro, because this hair turned
So you
into
went
an
from a
afro.
blonde wig to an afro.
I, I didn't wear wig until I got into the mime troupe again,
Mm-hmm.
only for performances. Okay.
Mm.
But no, I had a fro. My hair was natural, and I was invited to speak on behalf of the Puerto Rican Socialist Party. So I did, and they took a picture of me and they put it on the front page of the Black Panther newspaper. So
Wow.
hello,
Yeah.
yes,
Did you get a copy of the paper? Do you
I
still
have
have one?
it. I think I do, but I don't know where it is. I would have to
Oh,
search.
oh,
It's
you got to
probably
find that.
apart, you know.
Mm.
And I keep telling people that, and they don't believe me, you
See,
know.
that's why
But
you got to have a copy.
I did.
You got to
Yeah.
have your receipt. You got to keep your receipt of your revolutionary work. Because a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
say they would
But
do it.
now it's easier. Now it's easier. But like
Yeah.
it was really difficult to keep track of all these things, and
You
how I
have to go on
got it
eBay.
public speaking was really weird. I just spoke in front of the U.S. consulate down in San Francisco because they wanted me to speak. They said, Wilma, you talk. And I go, what? You talk. And so I just started talking about, the injustices that have taken place in Puerto Rico and all this stuff. And before you know it, they started inviting me. But I didn't expect to be on the front, so to speak. I
Hmm.
didn't want to do that. I wanted to do theater. I wanted to do art, and I wanted to do theater for the people. I felt that that was important because message gets across more easily through a play, a speech with all these big fancy words.
Right.
Yeah, put
It's
some of
different
those words.
hearing the revolution or seeing the revolution.
It's
Seeing
different
stuff
thing.
embodied and seeing that is so much different than, yeah, like you're saying, it's there. I mean, you need the intellectualism on a certain level, but it's got its place, and its place isn't
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, you have to
And that's where
remember who
people
you
lose it.
yeah, your audience, who are they? They're people. They're just simple people. And if you want to reach even more people, which is the working class, then you have to speak their language. And that's why it
Yeah.
was great in the Mime Troupe. We created working class people that spoke like them. You know,
Hmm.
you have to speak to the people, otherwise you lose them. You lose
Yeah.
them. You know. So
Yeah. So how
that's
long were
why,
you with the troupe?
uh, not as
How
long
long were
as
you
you.
around? Hmm. Yeah. No.
Oh
Don't
my
remind
God,
me.
Mike. Applause to you, because I don't know how you can take it. I would say I was, what was it? 5 years? 5 years? Almost 6 years. Almost.
Mm.
I did Spain 36
Right.
in LA Theater Center. I played Franco and the love interest. I did those two parts.
Hmm. We
Um,
still got the
and
pictures of you as Franco all over the place, and I used that. There's a shot of you, standing there. I think are you with Sharon? I can't remember, but there are these
she
great
plays
photographs of you. Yeah,
the Spanish nobility,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I love playing that because I found what helped me make this character come through. I found a pair of boots that were size 12 men's,
Mm. Hmm.
and, and I started walking around with them, and it gave the walk that I needed for this military guy. Franco literally was 5 feet tall. And so
Really?
Joan looked around and says, Wilma, you're 5 feet, right? You should play Franco. So, okay. and then half mask. So we had all these wonderful workshops with mask and learn how the different angles, how tell a story, you know. And then as soon as I put on the mask with a little teeny weeny military hat on top, and then my belly's out, and I had this coat, and I had these huge boots on, it was like a clownish kind of look for Franco, but a dangerous clown, you know?
Yeah.
And it worked, except that nobody knew that it was a woman playing Franco when I was doing it at the LA Theater Center.
Hmm.
And I was playing the love interest. The
So
last
when you came out to
costume that I
bow at
wore,
the end,
I
did you
had
bow?
a coat on and I had some boots on that were belonged to the love interest because the last scene is they're climbing over the Pyrenees, and I would take a bow in this coat, and then one night, like it was a few weeks, the stage manager on stage left. She goes, "Give me your coat," and I said, "Why?" And underneath I had Franco's long johns. So she says, "Just give me your coat. Now go." And I went out there and I bowed, and the whole audience stood on its feet and they were applauding me. And who should be in the second row? George Takei. He was on his feet applauding, and I was going, you know, nobody
Solo.
knew until I took the coat off. So they were like surprised. Everybody was surprised. And so, you know, yeah, so people were all of a sudden like, who is she? Where'd she come from? Da, 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 you know? And yeah, I could have stayed in LA and done stuff. I actually went to LA and after the mime troupe and stayed there. And there was this friend of mine, Michael, who used to be in the mime troupe as well. And he had gone to Warner Brothers, and the woman that he saw at casting saw that he was in the San Francisco mime troupe. He said, "Oh, do you know the little redhead that played Franco?" And he goes, "Yes."
Yeah, it's just what you want to hear if you're an actor going into something. Can you tell me about another actor, please?
Somebody else. And so he was so jealous. Oh my God. She told him, "Do you know if she's coming down?" I said, "Yeah, she's coming down." And I said, "Would you please have her call me as soon as she comes down?" So he calls me and gives me the information reluctantly. And then when that same Monday, I'm down there, I call up and I say, "Hi, um, this is Wilma Bonet." There was silence. So I said, "The little redhead that played Franco?" And she goes, "Oh my God, are you in town?" I said, "Yes. Come Wednesday. I want to see you. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. Yes, yes." I had no agent. I had no in cards. Nothing. Nothing. But that day, she basically walked around Warner Brothers and introduced me to Marion Dougherty and introduced me to all these casting people. I managed to get a 5-minute video done from Troopers. I had my friend made a nice edit of some scenes that I'm in there, and people were just eating it up. So I had a VHS copy. Yes, I'm that old. And you know, so she showed it to everybody. And then, I go, "I don't even have an agent." And he said, I even had the guts to say, "Well, do you know anybody that you would recommend?" And she goes, "I'm not supposed to do that." But then she gave me 5 names. So I went to see who they were, and went to them, and eventually I got one. But it was hard to get work because you didn't have a union card, and most people didn't want to hire you because they felt bad that all your money was going to go to a union card. So eventually I came home and I got my union cards here in the Bay Area.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
back when they were shooting all those television shows in the
and
Bay Area.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the
And
days. Hmm.
yeah. Sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
So after
So,
you leave the mime troupe and you've gone to LA and you've done that for a little while and you come back and so then you decided to stay in the Bay Area after that. You didn't go back to New York or anything, but you end up working a lot around the Bay Area and all over the country
yes.
still. So how did you why did you decide to stay in the Bay Area as opposed to like going to New York or something?
That's interesting. I didn't want to live in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who grew up in New York, I was ripped off 3 times before I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to live in an environment that literally, sure, during the blackout, everybody helped each other, but then during every other day, you didn't know if you were going to be, well up. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was living with that. And, by the 3rd time, I lost my leather purse. And I told the guy, oh, just leave the purse. There's only $7 in it. It was it was like I was tired of buying some nice leather bags and getting ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to live there. And I like the idea of being near a city that has trees. And the Bay Area is actually beautiful,
Yeah.
and nature here is just beautiful. Um, I felt good in this area. I felt like it was right.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have gone back to LA. I could have, but it's
No
interesting that
choice.
everything that I've done have been here,
Mm-hmm.
and have taken me to other places. And from here, I did go to LA to the Marte Perform to do Electricidad,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great being there, but
It's a
um,
good place to tour to, but maybe not to live.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's different, a big, huge place, and the traffic is horrendous down there. But I
It
had a
takes
great
so long to get anywhere when you're down
at
there.
least 2 hours, and I didn't have a car when I first was there.
Mm.
I would do everything with buses.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
it,
No.
it,
The one thing,
it's like
like I was in LA one time, and it was the first time I was working with the Actors Gang, and everybody said, if you're an actor in LA, you're never supposed to take the bus because someone might see you on the bus, and if they see you on the bus, that means you're a loser actor. And so finally one day I walked from the Actors Gang Theater all the way to the beach, and my feet were tired, and I got on a bus coming back, and the bus was beautiful to Culver City. It was like
they're
me and
huge.
3 women. They were empty. It was clean because nobody used them. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to remember this. So for you actors down there, take the bus. Nobody will see you because nobody's on the damn thing.
That's right. Who's gonna see you?
Right. So being up here, you've still had enough, going on, and so you did one of the voices for Coco.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I worked
Right.
on the voice development, on the character development for 6 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I
So all
did.
through that time, even when you came back to the mime troupe to direct shows, you were working on that all that time.
Oh yeah, and even when I
Wow.
was in Ashland, they flew me down to do recordings and stuff. Um, and I think I was in the running. I was in the running because they told my agent we like her a lot. So I was in the running for Abuela, and eventually
Mm.
went with somebody in LA. That's the only thing about this industry is they're gonna go with somebody they know has a whole history of filmmaking or films that they've done. So
Yeah.
I was not known. I mean, I'm actually I got lucky because um, the director liked me so much that when he called me in for the last day that I did voiceovers for him, um, he came in with a stack of scripts and he was like pissed off and stuff. And he was like, um, I want you to do something. You've been with us for so long. I want you to do something in this film. And I don't even remember what voices I finally recorded. It's just that they invited me for the screening at Pixar, and they told me, you have a character. Her name is Tia Chela. And I go, what? Oh, that's cool. And they gave me the sweatshirt that Miguel wears in the movie, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that says Coco and it has the white stripes on his red sweatshirt. So Mr. Valdez wasn't the only one who had one. So,
He's not the only one. Now,
yeah.
the other thing that has been one of your big passions, besides all of this, is Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah. Comic-Con.
I remember every time when you would come in and direct for us, and it was like, okay, and you'd be like, all right, when are we going to open? When is this going to happen? 'Cause, yeah. Oh, that is so cute. That is so cute.
That's Baby Yoda.
The Baby Yoda mask. And so why did you get so much into Comic-Con? How did that happen?
I don't know. It's I don't know. All I can remember is that we used to read comic books when we were little. I mean, in fact, one of my favorite comics was the Classics comic book. You remember those?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Had huge books. I wouldn't read the book. I read the comic book. And then I report on that.
Yeah, I remember, Golden Key Classics. That was the first time I read Frankenstein, was a Golden Key Classic. And then later I was like, I'm going to actually read the novel, but the comic books were so good.
They were good. They had pictures.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I remember that during that time, Superman, Batman, it was there, and we used to watch Superman, like the first one with George Reeves.
Yeah.
We used to watch that, okay, every Saturday night. Head out of the sky, and there is Superman. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? It's Superman. So I could say I grew up with that, and also the fact that watched the old Batmans with Adam West and the Riddler, and oh my God, all those characters were great. It's a fantasy world that I actually enjoyed, and it was funny too, But I know that my brother, lucky him, he loved the Silver Surfer. And he has the first comic book.
He's really?
Yes, he does.
Hey, I still have, I believe, a first edition Luke Cage Hero for Hire.
Oh my God.
First one. Yeah. I bought it as a kid, and I loved that comic book, and I kept it all these years.
Do you have it in a plastic bag? You better.
Yep.
That's what people do down there. You can literally go to Comic-Con and search for old editions, and they have tons and tons and tons of stuff like that. And I kind of like that. I also like the fact that Spain, who was our poster
artist, Spain Rodriguez, for years. Yeah.
He actually was in the original Comic-Con, which took place in San Francisco, but I never went to those. I didn't know about it. My sister turned me on to Comic-Con in LA, and eventually I got a ticket, and I went, and I said, oh, this is great. Then the following year, I couldn't buy a ticket, so I volunteered for the organization because it's all run by volunteers. And all you had to do was work 3 hours, and the rest of the day you're free. And that was great for every day that you went, And so eventually they liked what I was doing, and they had me work for 6 hours. And working as a 6-hour meant that I worked the whole room. So I worked in a room that held 2,000 people, and got to meet all these, like Nathan Fillion and even Neil deGrasse was there because he's a big Comic-Con man.
Yeah. Wow.
He's always called for the science fiction movies. He's one of the consultants on everything. And hearing him talk was like, you know, just blow my mind. And so I'm sitting people down and I'm like, watching. I'm such a geek. I didn't know I was such a geek, but
You have to find your geekdom. And
yes,
you found your geekdom. Most
but
people
here's
never find their geekdom.
you embrace your geekdom
Yes.
because it actually works. And all of a sudden it became a big deal with everybody. Comic-Con it's worldwide. It's,
Yeah.
people travel from other countries to come to the one in San Diego, and now there's Comic-Cons everywhere.
Right.
And
And also the power. It's like there was a few years ago when they were, I think it was Indiana, that was like siding against marriage equality and saying, we're going to outlaw this and gays shouldn't get married and all this stuff. And that's when Comic-Con said, oh, really? In that case, we're not going to do our Comic-Con in your state.
yeah.
And they opened that question and said marriage equality is okay because Comic-Con is such a big deal. It brings in so much money,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
didn't want to offend all of these people
Exactly.
dressed like Wookiees. They didn't
Yeah.
want to piss off the aliens and have them vote another way.
Yeah.
So
San Diego is going to be hurting this year a lot
yeah, I
because
know.
this was their big money maker. All the hotels.
Hmm.
Yeah, Comic-Con just sent a notice. They canceled the Comic-Con for this year.
Wow.
But I can use the ticket for next year if that's still
It's
viable.
yeah. I wonder what they'll do. I mean, will they try to make smaller ones? As
Well,
opposed to one big one. I mean, when I was a kid, I went to before Comic-Con, I was one of those kids that went to the Star Trek conventions. The
yes.
original Star Trek after the show was canceled, and then they started doing Star Trek conventions.
Did
And
you
so
ever
so
do
me and my sister
MimeCast?
would go. We would go and go to like the Oakland Coliseum or the Cow Palace in San Francisco once a year, and all these people would show up with their little Vulcan ears on, and we would see previews for all of these different things, and they would show have like I said, everybody's in costume, and they would have actors from the original Star Trek would come and talk to us.
Yeah.
And then one year I remember, I don't know if it was 74 or 75, they said, oh, there's a preview for this new movie we want to show all of you guys, and it started and it was Star Wars, and it was the first preview of Star Wars on this big screen, and you could see all of the people from the Star Trek convention kind of went, oh no, because they were like, that's it, everybody fell in love with the new show. And they only did Star Trek conventions for a few years, and then they started doing sci-fi conventions.
Yes.
Because and also Star Trek, the conventions achieved their goal, which was to kind of force Paramount or whoever to make the movie.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And
And once they made that first Star Trek movie,
yes.
then it was like, okay, so but yeah, I never wore the ears, but my sister should
I
have,
know a
My
lot of
sister,
Bay Area actors who wore ears and showed up in their uniforms.
yeah, I could have that.
A lot
My
of
sister, we had like
Right.
original scripts from Star Trek, signed by Leonard Nimoy.
Hello.
And yeah, so yeah, we were big Star Trek fans, and then and going to the conventions and stuff. Never made that move into Comic-Con, but there's still time.
Yeah, every year, there's still time. And now they have one in New York.
Really?
Yeah, they have now Comic-Con West Coast and now East Coast. It's the same people, right? So
Like the Ren Fair.
yeah, yeah. But
Well,
it's so cool. I mean, there's all these people that show up. They're all geeks, People dress up. Yeah, they dress up. And some of them do a hell of a job. But there's all these workshops. There's a whole thing by the Costumers Guild, sponsored by the Costumers
really?
Guild, and they have particular, how you're going to make this and how you're going to do that, how to do weapons, for your superhero,
Right.
because for a while, people were showing with fantastic stuff. Saturday night usually at Comic-Con is a costume ball, they call it.
Oh,
But
wow.
but they have this contest on stage. People come on for 1 or 2 minutes with what they have created, and it has to be made by them.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be, yeah, it has to be made by them. You, the person, must
Have
must
made them.
wear what you made. And I saw fantastic stuff. There was an awards for people who made armor, which is like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
But to make armor out of some plastic stuff that makes it look like armor, you go, whoa, that's pretty cool. And of course, this guy, what was it? One year, I felt so bad for him. He did a transformer. You know how hard that is to make a transformer go from a car into a tall transformer.
Yeah.
Well, he did that. He comes in as a car and then he unveil and gets bigger and taller. I don't know how. I got a feeling it involves some of those tall things that you have to wear on your feet. And then as he exits, the thing falls apart.
Oh.
That's exactly what the whole audience did. We all like, oh no, we felt so bad for him. So it was eliminated because it fell apart. But
Mm.
people are very creative. They create, they get groups. There's a group award, and usually the group a little sketch, which is very funny. Sometimes, they don't, like one time there was the war of the Avatar. So one guy was dressed as Avatar from the Avatar movie, and the other one was Avatar from the Airbender. And so there was martial arts on stage in those costumes. And I'm going, oh, that's pretty cool. And you laugh, you have a good time. But yeah, it's
So the
it's pretty.
creativity, it sounds like that's the thing that draws you is that and it's constantly evolving as people are having to actually make things, and to actually use their imaginations, and you get to see all of this creativity of people that may not have that in their regular lives. They might be accountants or cheesemongers or whatever,
You
but
usually are. Yeah,
when they go there, they get to be their artistic selves.
they do. And they get
Yeah.
to listen to some fabulous lectures. Like one year, it was Peter Jackson and James Cameron. James
Wow.
Cameron?
Hmm.
Yeah, who did Avatar, right? James
Yeah.
Cameron? Okay. They had a heavy conversation. They were in the future in their heads of what the future of television and movies would be like.
Hmm.
And apparently they're working on that. So scientifically, if you can if you're into that, you can sit there and listen to what the future is going to be like. Like they were talking a lot about holographic uh, performances and making movies that are holographic for the audience to feel immersed in the environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was intense. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, it would be almost like theater. You would
Yeah.
be in the environment.
Hmm.
This time, go to the bar in Star Wars rather than and sit there and watch them fight or whatever, but you're
Yeah.
there. You know?
Wow.
So it was really interesting. And they're talking about how long it would take for them to do the technology and what their misses were, you know.
Mhm.
James Cameron had brought the 3D of Avatar, and he had
Right.
20 minutes. Very humble man, very humble. And we were all given these 3D glasses made by Adobe. Each glass
Hmm.
cost about $58. They were high class, high end. Okay, so we gave out the glasses to the audience members, right, as they were coming in. They never told us that we were supposed to get them back.